Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, we do not intend for this to be long. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, we intend, Most High willing, this out to our people for edification purposes. So, brothers and sisters, if I can be heard, give me a 4, brothers and sisters. If I can be heard, give me a 4, brothers and sisters. Thank you. On a human level, shout out to my lady, Sarah Michaela of the house of Israel. Shalom, truth be told. Shalom, Uziel Yisrael. Shalom to the people in the chat. Shalom to the people who subscribe to the channel, who comment, like, and share. Brothers and sisters, this is a series called History Not for the Novice. And before we get started on that, we want to show, for edification purposes, if we will, brothers and sisters, this particular matter at hand. Here is, brothers and sisters, the book a brother wrote, shortened version. Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, History Untold to the Masses. This book right here is dedicated to those who are interested on why we say what we say concerning biblically showing our true history. From Assyria to America's version, shortened, is this one right here. From Avaris to Alabama. And we're going to talk part of this in this presentation, as the subtitle is called From Menopher to Memphis. Menopher, brothers and sisters, is the ancient Egyptian way of what the Greeks later on called Memphis in Northeast Africa, in the country called Egypt. As pointed out in the book From Assyria to America, there were no people who identified themselves in history by the name Greeks until the Romans called them that. They called themselves the Hellenes, such as Hellenizing and so forth and so on. So, brothers and sisters, without any further ado, and with the time allotted, we want to, brothers and sisters, get into this particular matter and this particular presentation, if we will. We hope you all had a good weekend. We know, brothers and sisters, that there were those, such as, not being funny myself, who dealt with a great amount of working overtime on these people's holidays for business purposes. We want to respectfully take advantage of the timing that our people are into concerning these said holidays and these said times. Why, brothers and sisters, should we not? While our people's attention is there, let it be known what our truth is. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to pull up the PowerPoint. And again, on a human level, shout out to my lady, Sarah Michaela of the house of Israel. And brothers and sisters, we want to, for edification purposes, if we will, go over this particular matter at hand. What are we looking at in this particular case, brothers and sisters? What, brothers and sisters, are we able to see and ascertain in this particular matter? Again, how is everybody doing? Please let me know in the comments. And brothers and sisters, let it be known for reasonable purposes what is being shown and seen. Egypt, Hafra, a price. This particular pharaoh that you see there ruled in dynasty 26 of Egypt and is mentioned by the historian Herodotus for those who are interested. And here we see Egypt mentioned in citation, at least letting one know something, in the book of Jeremiah chapter 41, verse 4, and Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 1. We want to, brothers and sisters, with the laser pointer, show Tahpanhes. Tahpanhes is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah. Israelites were there, brothers and sisters, after the fall of Jerusalem. So what we can gain and what we can see and what we can surmise, brothers and sisters, is that the Israelites were known in history. You can go in your own time and get into a matter, brothers and sisters, called the Elephantine Papyrus, which gets into that particular matter. So the time frame we're talking about is the 6th century BCE, in which Israelites were in the land of Egypt, according to the scriptures. Tahpanhes is an Egyptian word meaning land of the black, or land of the black people. Correct me if I'm wrong. When me and my lady was in Egypt, we didn't see too many things different than what the picture you see there is showing. And that picture showing on that particular side, brothers and sisters. So, further ado, brothers and sisters, want to have it to be for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. Is this. Let us again pull this up. Thank you, family. And we're going to start again for reasonable purposes where we were at. Goshen, you see here, was called, correct me if I'm wrong, Kesen, by the people of the Greeks. Brothers and sisters. So with the laser pointer, I want to show where me and my lady was at, and I'm going to circle it when we was in Egypt. Will you see that circle there? And we want to circle it in a different color as well. Giza. That's the place where me and my lady was at when we went to Egypt last year. And not too long ago, we spoke upon being in there, brothers and sisters. So, without any further ado, I'm going to ask you all to get your pens, your pads, your paper, brothers and sisters, and take notes. All right? Thank you for that. Sorry about that, family. Had to go on a human level and get the drink. Because as you know, when you talk, you need that drink. All right. Let us continue, brothers and sisters, in this case. Synoptisi in the matter of the Brooklyn Museum papyrus. Let us, brothers and sisters, look at this for reasonable and for edification purposes. The Asiatic woman, Menahem. The Asiatic woman, Shifra, weaver of linen. What can we see out of that, brothers and sisters? We know good and well that Shifra was one of the women that you see in the Bible in the book of Exodus. The Asiatic woman, Asher, she is called Word in Tef, weaver. Again, brothers and sisters, what can we gain and ascertain in that particular case? If we will. Next part. The Persians. In 550 BCE, Cyrus II defeated as TITUS of the Medes. And we see in history that the Medes and the Persians were one empire, especially by the time they came and met with the children of Israel. They were more supportive of the Israelites than the Assyrians and the Babylonians were. So as we're going over in previous times, brothers and sisters, right? You had it to where the Assyrians held the children of Israel as captives. After that particular matter, the Babylonians held the children of Israel as captives. And one of the sad things, and I say this in no disrespect, that many Israelites speak upon is trying to separate the captivity of the northern kingdom of Israel in the southern kingdom of Judah, which was expounded upon in the book Deuteronomy 28:15-68. Because you had Judah that was captive in Babylon, and you had, brothers and sisters, Israel that was captive in Assyria, Judah in Assyria, and also Israel in Babylon. So once a kingdom of a people has fallen, by default, we cannot say northern and southern kingdom. But let's continue and close out with the time allotted. In 538 BCE, the Persian king Cyrus II defeated Nabonidus of Babylon, thereby annexing Babylon. The people of Judah, Benjamin, and a lot of Levites were permitted to go back to the land to rebuild the temple. So, brothers and sisters, what can we see and ascertain from that? Cyrus II had a son named Cambyses. Do you know that these were the Persians who ruled in Dynasty 27 of Egypt? Because when you go here, brothers and sisters, this is Dynasty 26 right here. One of the last strongest dynasties that ancient Egypt had. Dynasty 27 was that of the Persians. So, brothers and sisters, let us continue in this particular case, if we will. And again, thank you for the time, because you could be anywhere, but you decided to watch this now or to watch it later. All right? Next part, thank you. The Murashu records and the Yahud in Persia. What are we talking about, brothers and sisters? The Murashu records is in part what you see in there on the right side. It speaks about the Israelites being merchants inside the timing of ancient Persia. What can we gain from that, brothers and sisters? Why should Israel have, and I say this in no disrespect intended, a poor man mentality? There's no reason to have that. I want to point this out here. The Yod, the Hey, and the Dalet. Yahud. Yahud is what the people of Judah were called during the time of the Persian Empire. Instead of being called Yahuda, they was called Yahud. And you can see what some refer to as Paleo-Hebrew, which simply means ancient Hebrew, in this form, the ancient Hebrew writing. You see that in that particular case right there. Why do we do that? Because the conscious community, and I say this in no disrespect intended, in many cases, oh, Israelites don't come with no records. Israelites don't come with no records and blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, these are some of the stuff that we're coming with for, as pointed out, edification purposes. Let's go on to the next part. Brick of Nebuchadnezzar. Let us see. The Aramaic on it says Zabina, who is also mentioned in Ezra chapter 10. Nebuchadnezzar is mentioned in Ezra. Now, in Ezra, we're talking about Ezra in the Bible, brothers and sisters. All right? In the book, Israelite history as it relates to the world, we went over that particular matter about the time frame from Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther or Hadassah. So for those who are interested, you can get that book, Israelite History as it Relates to the World. It's online for $20. The name Zabina is mentioned more than 5 times in the Murashu records. Now again, what you're seeing there on the right side is part of the Murashu records. The names Tobiah is Tu'ub Bi'ama, and Ba'aliah is Ba'li Ama. Why do we point that out? Because, brothers and sisters, linguistics shows transliteration for edification purposes. The term IA apostrophe A apostrophe MA is the Babylonian way, or what is the Yahoo in the Bible. Eliyahu, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Kezkiyahu, and names such as that. This is what we want to point out for reference purposes. We want to get into our language matter, brothers and sisters, and show the connection with such. Next slide. The Greeks. The next people to attack the Israelites were the Greeks. Alexander, king of the Greeks, had a successor named Seleucus, and thus we see the Seleucids. Antiochus III captured Jerusalem in 198 BCE. Antiochus IV 175 to 163 BCE, captured Jerusalem in 168 BCE, and thus we see the Maccabean revolt from 168 to 142 BCE. Jerusalem was besieged again in 131 BCE. The Maccabees fought the Greeks and Romans tooth and nail. It should be understood that the Levites were the heads of the Maccabees, but the soldiers and people were led by them were from Benjamin and Judah. So many of the Maccabean leaders were Levites. That's why in some cases they call it when priests fought and ruled, because there was no human king sitting, say, on the throne. Simon Maccabeus, the relative of Judas Maccabeus, according to the Roman historian TITUS, was the king of the people at the time, but he was a Levite. So this is what we want to point out in that particular case. When the Persians lost of the Greeks, we see, as Daniel says, their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. This means they fell as an empire, but were not totally taken off of the map. The Greeks in the book I took over in 320 BCE with the Ptolemies, then in 198 with the Seleucids. So brothers and sisters, we want to show again, for edification purposes, the book that we're talking about, Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, in this particular case. All right, for those who are interested. Let's go on to the next slide. Israelites in Egypt, era of Greek hegemony. This is the Zenon Papyrus. According to Grant and Raleigh's Bible Dictionary, this is about the Hebrews that were in Ptolemaic Egypt. This is in the Cairo Museum. Me and my lady was in the Cairo Museum. Part of the time when we was in Egypt, they actually showed us how papyrus is made and so forth. Now, I understand, excuse me, things are operated in business. But I say nonetheless, if you're going to visit Egypt, make sure there's two things that I suggest. That you got money to give tips and to lay the law down when you're not giving a tip just because somebody invited you over to something and then expected you to tip after you didn't know what was going on, but they invited you to it. Part of the papyrus states of the people of Judah, it says dark skin, curly hair, black eyes, rather big jaws, uncircumcised, nose flat, protruding lips, fiery complexion, long straight hair, scar above the right eye. So that is part, brothers and sisters, of how the people of Judah were described in the Zenon Papyrus. Next slide. Titus of Rome. The Romans defeated the Greeks in 146 BCE in the Corinth battle. Pompey of Rome captured Jerusalem in 63 BCE. The Edomites during this time were anticipating their move into the land of Israel. In 66 AD to 73 AD, there was a very bloody war in which thousands of Israelites were slain. Many Israelites were crucified. The Roman general Vespasian captured Jericho, and his son Titus razed the city of Jerusalem and burnt the temple. So When we read about the matter with 70 AD and 70 AD, what we're reading about is when, brothers and sisters, the temple was destroyed. But the battle that led to the temple being destroyed did not end in 70 AD. It continued on. Titus, selected to complete the subjugation of Judea, he found in Judea the 5th, 10th, and 15th legions of his fathers. He added the 12th, 18th, and 3rd, accompanied by 20 cohorts of troops and 8 squadrons of cavalry, by a strong contingent of Arabs who hated the Jews. With this force, Titus entered at last. He encamped near Jerusalem. Titus, Roman historian, book 5. So Titus was a Roman historian who in part spoke upon the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus in 70 AD. And while we call this one here from Menopher, which is Memphis of ancient Egypt, to Memphis, we're talking about in the land of the United States, we wanted to go over some of the key people that were leaders of the enemies of the Israelites that had an effect on the diaspora and the migration of the Israelites. What happened with the Israelites after this dispersion, after the temple was destroyed, after their kingdom was subjugated? They fled for secure in many places within Africa. So let us go on, brothers and sisters. This is not for the novice, part 4. What you see right there on the top, brothers and sisters, is part of what they call the Arts of Titus. In that, brothers and sisters, that is over, correct me if I'm wrong, by the Colosseum inside of Rome. And it commemorates what they did in taking the things out of Jerusalem and bringing it to Italy. Italy is in Europe. So have Europeans been taking things of other nations and bringing it to Europe for quite some time? Perhaps. At least that's what this is portraying. What you're seeing there on the bottom is called the Hellenos Papyrus. The Hellenos Papyrus, brothers and sisters, is a matter that speaks upon what is referred to today as gentrification and the removal of the people of the Israelites from their land as they were replaced by the Greeks and by the Edomites. Next part, please. Notes and maps. The Israelites during the time of the Romans migrated to Egypt, south of Egypt to Ethiopia, and west of Ethiopia to West Africa, cited by Vincent Hutchinson in his book, Egypt Talk and Writing. So let's look at this map here with the time allotted, right? You got Rome here. And then the people of the Romans attacked the Israelites that were here in Jerusalem. So if the army that happens to be stronger than you in part is coming, and when I say in part, I'm talking about being strong in part, because during the time of Nero, Israelites had kind of the upper hand. But what I'm saying, getting into this, the Israelites were being attacked by people from the north of them. So if they were losing, would they not flee, showing the map right here, going south? They wouldn't flee north into the land of their oppressors by their own volition. They will go away, even if it meant leaving their own homeland to another land. That is part of the diaspora, brothers and sisters. The matter with the Arabs and the Jews. The next people to attack the Israelites were the Arabs. The Arabs were spreading Islam as far as they can go, to China, Romania, and even Ghana. In 627 AD, the Arabs attacked the Ashanti people, forcing them to convert to Islam. The same was done to the Mandekas in 1099 AD. When you go in your own time and look up, brothers and sisters, the matter of Hebrewisms of West Africa, as well as the book From Babylon to Timbuktu. You'll begin to see this kind of information. Hebrewism states as follows. Haji El Edwati stated, there is a race of people in Tugurt, a place in Algeria, called Mejahariya. They were Jews in former times, but to escape death, they made profession of Islam. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. So let us continue on in this particular case. Source on the matter in Koran chapter 17. In Salah was founded by a Jewish colony that had migrated after the destruction of the temple at Jerusalem. At this period, the Muslims, who heretofore had tolerated this Jewish population, now massacred them almost to a man. Now, if I mispronounce this, Comte, Comte, Rene El More, I think that's French. My French is not its best. In 1923, you get that, brothers and sisters, by reading the book, Hebrewisms of West Africa, written by Joseph Williams. In the Quran, chapter 17, verse 14, we read this. Read your book. Today, there will be none but yourself to call you to account. Whoever is guided for his own good. And whoever goes astray for his own detriment. No burdened soul carries the burdens of another, nor do we ever punish until we have sent a messenger. When we decide to destroy a town, we command its affluent ones. They transgress in it, so the word becomes justified against it, and we destroy it completely. That is in the Quran, chapter 17. Do you know that is a chapter called the Children of Israel in the Quran? The Quran has a whole chapter called Bnei Yisrael, or the Children of Israel. And in that particular chapter, it talks about how they were commanded, by they being they or the Arabs or those who will promote or push Islam being Muslims, to go against other peoples. So this is what we want to point out for edification purposes. Notes as we begin to close out with the time allotted. When the Israelites fled out of the land of Israel and went to West Africa, the dreaded prophecy of Deuteronomy 28 followed them. Some of the great empires that the Israelites established in West Africa were the Songhai, the Zegzag, the Nufa, the Oyo, etc. These empires came up when the Israelites fled into West Africa and fell when the Arabs and whites came in. The Europeans is what I mean when I say the whites. In the 15th century, the Portuguese set off the slave trade in 1441. As early as 1501, black people were seen in Haiti as slaves. When Cristobal Colon, set sail in 1492, black people were being imported to Europe at a rate of 1,000 yearly. In 1646, black people were brought to New Amsterdam or New York. Yes, black people were sold as slaves in Manhattan, New York in 1646. Is it odd that 1646 is an area code for Manhattan? The source is from a book called History of Slavery by Suzanne Everett. Notes. The Spaniards brought the blacks to Jamaica early in the 16th century. The slave trade in Jamaica became rife in the middle of the 17th century. Jamaica, the island, was colonized by the Spaniards in 1509, taken over by the British in 1655. There was in Jamaica slavery, the people from Ashanti and Igbo. According to Mavis Campbell in the book Maroons of Jamaica, the blacks who were captive in Jamaica took to the mountains and fought 3 wars against the European colonial powers in 1655, 1731, and 1796. Our history is great, brothers and sisters. Recently, a movement in the name of the spirit of Willie Lynch has it to where Black Americans are to be seen as different than West Indians, when in actuality, the difference, if there is a difference, is that one got off the slave ship before the other, as Kohen Mikhail pointed out. One in Trinidad, one in North Carolina, one in Jamaica, one in Virginia. And sometimes after being dropped off in Boston, was shipped to Barbados. Let's continue, brothers and sisters. Louisiana, the United States. Now, why do we want to show this? New Spain, Spanish territory. All of this that you see there in that yellow is part of that particular case. Why do I want to go over this part? It's because while it's now sadly being presented, Black Americans are different than West Indians, and West Indians are different than, say, Black Americans. When they was colonizing this Western Hemisphere, they didn't say there was a difference. They were just colonizing. So once the people became liberated from the shackles of their wrists and off their ankles, they had to then put another shackle called, for the lack of a better term, the Willie Lynch syndrome and the Willie Lynch concept. Where you view somebody who looks like you, but comes from a different part of the Western Hemisphere as different than you. Which led into the matter of now people saying that slavery did not really happen, or it wasn't as serious as it's told, or that the slave trade is told in reverse. All of that is the birth of separating the said African American and the said West Indian. And then again, separating those two from the said people in Brazil. In the book From Assyria to America, I pointed out about the Parliament of England in 1745. Pardon me, 1845. And what they did regulating the slave trade with Brazil. The same British that was colonizing North America was trying to control what the Portuguese was doing in Brazil in the 1840s. Sorry for saying it was the 1740s earlier. My mistake. So, brothers and sisters, and looking upon it in this particular case, if they didn't separate themselves in colonizing, why do we, who are now colonized, mentally feel that we are right to support that kind of concept of colonization? Next slide. The French controlled Canada and the lower Midwestern portion of what is the United States today until they were defeated by the French in the French-American War. This is known as the Quasi-War from 1798 to 1800. The Spanish controlled Texas, Florida, California, Nevada, and New Mexico. There are records of Yorubas brought to South Carolina since they were good with rice. The English brought blacks to Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, but the Spanish brought blacks to South/North Carolina in 1526. So, brothers and sisters, this area here, referred to as North and South Carolina, shown here with the, was being controlled by the Spanish, as was later on Florida, as was later on Cuba, as was later on Puerto Rico, as was later on Trinidad. Because before it became a British colony, the place called Trinidad was a Spaniard colony. The word Trinidad is a Spanish word meaning Trinity. Next slide. Now, looking at this map here as we begin to close out, the people taken from Western Africa and brought over here to the Western Hemisphere. This is something we do not want to ever be forgotten. Nobody on this earth is told to forget about their history but us. We are the only people who are told to do such. Massachusetts, was the first state to recognize slavery legally in the late of the year 1641. Then Connecticut, 1650, Virginia, 1661, Maryland, 1663, New York and New Jersey, 1664, South Carolina, 1682, Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, 1700, North Carolina, 1715, and Georgia, 1750. These dates are for when slavery was recognized legally, not when blacks were brought there as captives. They were captives in these places before the state recognized them legally as slaves. For instance, Pennsylvania is first recorded as having 150 slaves, black captives, imported to cut trees and build houses in 1684, which was 3 years before it was founded as a colony. So before Pennsylvania became a colony, they already had our people working there to sit there and build houses by cutting trees. Are there records of other colonies in North America having slavery before the colony recognized it? If so, let me know. The ships would rot at their docks. Grass would grow in Wall Street and Broadway. And the glory of New York, like that of Babylon and Rome, will be numbered with the things of the past. That comes from a book called Hidden History of New York. And in that, the author, Apidta, Apidta, is emphasizing on the fact of how Wall Street and Broadway would look if slavery did not exist there. Brothers and sisters, in closing out, we have here Egypt talking and writing. Did the Torah come from the culture of Tameri? Deuteronomy 28, 15 and 68. The condition of the blacks. From Avaris to Alabama. The journey of the Hebrews. Those books, brothers and sisters, are available online for those who are interested. Each of those books are $12 each. So, brothers and sisters, I would like to take the time out now, brothers and sisters, and show for reference purposes, if we will. Right? An aspect of a new slide. And in this new slide, I'm going to show my contact info, brothers and sisters. My number is 908-587-4841. The Cash App, if anyone cares to donate, is $Frank Son 1. $FRANKSSON. $Frank Son 1. All right. If one wanted to PayPal, one can do so by using the telephone number 908-587-4841. All right. So I just want to show that for reference purposes. In closing out, brothers and sisters, I want to advertise the book that my lady wrote. All right? For those who are interested. This is the book, brothers and sisters, that my lady wrote. All right? This is called, brothers and sisters, Chronicles of a Black Woman's Soul, written by Tanya Westbrook. And you can get this book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. It's a poetry book. Some of the poems are funny. Some of the poems are sad. But none of the poems are fake. Brothers and sisters, I would like to show, for advertisement purposes, Hebrew for Couples, Volume 1, for those interested. You can get that on Amazon. All right? Hebrew for Couples, Part 2, also available on the right. I think it's the best one. I know I wrote it, but this one here is the best one. It's not to knock Part 3, but yeah, Part 2 is that truth. I just want to say that. I put a lot into that one. But Part 3 is good as well. And I'm not trying to just say don't get another one, but just want to point that out. Shout out on a human level to the sister Fab Aim, Fabaim. Look her up on Facebook. She does my book covers. As you can see, she does an excellent job. All right? Rising Greatness with Prince David. Is this the Prince David, brother, that is, if I'm not going to be funny, work with the brother, Ariel Misharet? I don't even know if I'm talking to the same person or so. But if so, thank you for the compliment. And if not, thank you for the compliment. To the people in the chat, subscribe to the channel. Again, we want to pull this up. If we will, brothers and sisters, 908-587-4841. You can reach me on paper. You can reach me on text or call me, or you can send me by WhatsApp by that telephone number. PayPal is the same number. The Cash App, $FrankSon1. All right. To the people who buy the books, I appreciate it. To my lady who pushes it on her platform and on her channel, I appreciate that. Now I want to close out and give an honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth, the one who sees all and is not seen, the one who judges all and is not judged. I ask you all again to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. And we're going to, Creator willing, do another presentation. History Not for the Novice, Part 5. And that'll be it for that. But subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think. This is not a super chat, if you will, but I do accept donations by PayPal or by Cash App. So we want to point that out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. Do you know what you're seeing right there is a slave castle? I wanted to point that out. Good night, brothers and sisters. All right. Well, still right. Diddy Sarai. Thank you, brothers and sisters of the house of Israel. Who support. Thank you of baptism. I don't know everything, and I know good and well my channel can look a lot better. I know that. So I definitely do appreciate the support. Stay tuned. Me and my lady, Creator willing, we intend to come out with some works. Stay tuned for such. Most High bless. Shalom.